So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the concept of an emotionally intelligent organization. But first, I want to introduce you to somebody. I'm not sure if you can tell a resemblance, but this little guy is Paul Scott Palmer. It's me. This is when I was 2. I go by my middle name just to make things a little bit more complicated. I consider myself a really lucky individual. I grew up stable home. Parents loved me. Great relationship with my family. And we got to travel a little bit. Played sports when I got older. Again, consider myself very fortunate. Fast forward, we'll do some time traveling, and 24 years later, here I am with my beautiful wife Ashley and myself, and we are not in China, we are in Disney World. And for those of you who know me, I geek out about Disney. There's 2 things I geek out about: apps on my phone and Disney. And at the time, my wife did not feel the same way, but after this trip, I was able to convince her to go more than once. In fact, we've gone multiple times. This is myself, my family, and my wife again this year in Disney World, keeping the tradition alive, taking goofy photos with hats. And this is our favorite ride, my daughter and my son, Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm going to introduce you to my kids. Here's Charlie. He is a big goofball. Charlie, I know you're watching. We're talking about you. He loves smoothies. In fact, he can't say smoothies because he's 2. And so he calls them fwees. I think I'd probably call them fwees too. So, and then my daughter Alice, who is obviously the princess of the family. Alice, I know you're watching as well, wherever you are. Alice is sitting in the chair at the Bippity Boppity Boutique in Disney World, and the Bippity Boppity Boutique turns your daughter into a princess, if she already isn't one. And they do her makeup, they do her hair, she gets a fairy godmother, and they do this reveal where my daughter didn't get to see what she looked like until the last minute. They turned her around and they opened up those curtains, and you get to see her face just light up. She was so excited to see herself and see how beautiful she looked. It was an experience like this that happened 2 years prior that helped me realize that this is what my life is going to be about. It's going to be about supporting my family and my children. It's going to be about doing things that make my kids proud of me. And it was that particular experience that led me here today. And so all of my decisions up until now, for the last 2 years, have been because I want my kids to be able to say, that is my dad. So a lot happened, obviously, between the time I was born and current day. I was born, we had a couple kids, we went to Disney World, obviously, a few times. Company was on Shark Tank, went to Disney World again. Now, life is made up of a lot of moments. Moments of frustration, of high levels of success, of sadness. And so it's these emotions that we go through that define us. It's these emotions that define me. I am 100% a product of my environment. And it's because of these emotions that I make the decisions I do today. Now, if you know how to pull these stories out of me, if you know how to connect with me and know how to develop a relationship with me, you can make me feel comfortable enough to share this. The odds are, unless you're in here today or you already know me, you don't know all these pieces of information, and you would never find out unless you knew the right questions to ask. And it's the ability to ask these questions that gets us to the topic of emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is defined by Wikipedia as the capacity of individuals to recognize their own and other people's emotions, to discriminate between different feelings and label them appropriately, and to use emotional information to guide thinking and behavior. So it's the ability to connect with people. It's the ability to understand that we all have experiences, and they are what drive us and have created our decision-making processes. So emotional intelligence is made up of 4 main components: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. We combine all 4 of these pieces together, and we get emotional intelligence. Now, There are two types of intelligence. There's emotional intelligence, and then there's IQ. So IQ and EI or EQ. And the great thing about emotional intelligence is it can be measured and it can be increased. In fact, it's currently measured on a scale of 1 to 100. And there are organizations out there that have devoted themselves to learning about emotional intelligence. And they found some awesome facts about emotional intelligence and how they affect us. So they found that emotional intelligence is responsible for 58% of our performance. 90% of a company's top performers have high levels of emotional intelligence. And here's an interesting fact. On average, those with higher levels of emotional intelligence make $29,000 more per year than those with lower levels of emotional intelligence. And they found that EI is so closely related to compensation that for every 1 point you increase your EI, in theory, your compensation goes up by $1,300. So let's do a quick math game here. So, for example, let's say we made $50,000 a year. You had an EI of 70. You increased your EI from 70 to 80. You just potentially increased your yearly earnings by $13,000 a year. Now, companies understand that having employees with high levels of emotional intelligence can be beneficial. So beneficial that it can result in greater sales. A study done with 40 Fortune 500 companies found that those who had higher levels of emotional intelligence outperformed their peers with lower levels of emotional intelligence by 50% in sales. And the same study also found that, crazy fact, that one particular company had greater productivity within its organization such that those with higher levels of EI were 20 times more productive than those with lower EI. Now, there are companies out there that also devote themselves to implementing tactics and habits and helping companies to increase their EI and helping companies to put in systems in place. And one such company we're familiar with is the Junto Institute, and they found that companies that have participated in their organization to train and improve their company's EI grew year over year 108%. So now, we just learned that as an individual, increasing your EI can increase your opportunities and increase your potential earnings. Companies who have employees with higher levels of EI can result in greater sales and higher productivity. And now companies that improve and work on their EI have the ability to increase and grow. Sounds easy, right? Be nice, make relationships. It's not quite that easy. So, what about creating a framework within an organization that fosters the development of emotional intelligence? First, you got to hire for EI. Hire the people that already understand this, who are already able to connect. And then next, develop EI skills within that organization. Give them tools that help them understand how to communicate with people. Because individuals need to learn how other people want to be communicated to. And now, on top of that, display transparency within your organization. Become vulnerable. Tell people how your day's going. Tell them if you're doing great, if you're having a hard time. And we, within our own organization, every Monday, have a daily call. We call it a family call, sometimes a team call. And each individual goes through on the call and gives their highs and lows. Now, why is this important? Now, this is important because if somebody's having a bad day, I can talk to them about it. It's that simple. If somebody is not doing well, if there's issues happening at home or at work, I know that there's a better way to communicate to this person than just loading them with work. And lastly, support employees' goals and aspirations. Why wouldn't we want our employees to reach their potential? Why wouldn't we want them to grow as individuals, spiritually, emotionally? Why wouldn't we want them to have an opportunity to make more money? And it's by implementing these 4 concepts that can allow for a company to grow and increase its own EI. So let's do some fun math here. So we know all these concepts. We know that technically emotional intelligence within an organization is a good thing. Now, Let's say a company has 10 employees. And each employee has an average score of 80. And each employee makes $50,000 with that particular EI score. And we have an average revenue per employee of $500,000. So 10 employees, $500,000, we have a $5 million organization. Now that organization, let's say, has in place systems and processes that correlate revenue of the company and compensation of the individuals with the revenue. So as the company grows, revenue grows, or as the company grows, there's opportunities for employees, and as employees grow themselves, do the right things, the revenue will naturally grow. So now let's say we take that EI score and go from 80 to 90. And we know in the past that on average, 1 point equals $1,000 or $1,300 in additional compensation. So if we go from 80 to 90, those employees now are technically making $63,000 per year. And we know that we have systems in place to keep those employees performing. And so assuming that we keep that 10-to-1 ratio of revenue per employee, we now have increased our revenue per employee to $630,000, and we are now a $6.3 million company. That is an increase of $1.3 million in additional revenue just by helping our employees become successful. Not telling them not to go out and sell more, but helping them develop the skills that they need to go out in the world and develop relationships. So, in conclusion, EI can equal a happier, more productive organization, and ultimately increase opportunities for those who embrace it. Thank you.